What's going on, everybody? Noah here with Studio Sports. Welcome to our podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about some college football playoffs. A lot of good games that went on this weekend. Ohio State and Oregon, Texas, Arizona State, Penn State, Boise State, Notre Dame, and Georgia. And our guest with us today, Mr. Kendall, was at the Notre Dame Georgia game. So let's go ahead and start with the one that you were at. Tell us a little bit about that. What went on? What did you see with your own eyes?
Uh, well, first and foremost, we're gonna send condolences to everyone that was lost due to the tragic events that happened in New Orleans, which I missed probably by about 20 minutes. Me and a couple of my brothers was out there, and we just left 20 minutes before it happened. Thank God for that. So we're gonna send condolences to everyone that was affected by the events that happened down there. Truly, truly sad, and something that should have never happened. Um, as far as the game goes, it was, I don't know if Georgia just didn't look like Georgia, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, with Carson Beck being out and Gunner being in, and Gunner didn't play bad. He actually played good, managed the game good. I don't think that particular game is anything player related. I have to put the blame of that game on the coaches, and why I say that because the defense kept Georgia in the game. Right before halftime, the game is 6-3. Georgia gets the ball back. Notre Dame punts the ball to Georgia. You know you have your backup quarterback. You haven't been able to really move the ball except for one drive in which ETN fumbled.
Mm-hmm.
But you haven't really been able to move the football. So you put your backup quarterback in a 2-minute offense. First play, strip sack, lose the ball, Notre Dame scores. You go to the half right then. You're going into the half 6-3. Who knows what happened? Um, ETN doesn't fumble the ball and you score. Now you up 7-3. So even if they come back out and they score that touchdown, even if that puts them up 10-7, still anybody gain from there. When you lose a strip sack, they score a touchdown, come back out, they run a kickoff back. It just gassed your team. And from that moment on, like we knew that it was over. Notre Dame is a very physical team. Um, it just was hard. They didn't have the fight in them after that. So I
And
believe
watching
that.
watching that game was definitely not anything like Georgia defense we've seen. I mean, 14 first downs, they were 4 for 14 on third down efficiency, having 154 rushing yards, 90 passing yards. I mean, Georgia defense held them as well as they could, but it was the fact that they were consistently on the field and they just got gassed.
That's what that was. That's exactly what that was. They couldn't. Offense couldn't sustain any drives whatsoever. And Georgia been dealing with that all year. Receiver dropping balls, and bottom line is they haven't played a complete football game all season. It's either they play
Right.
good the first half, don't play good the second half. Majority of their games they don't do anything the first half. Then you come out in the second half, and that was my fear of Georgia all year. Going back and forth. I've been to plenty of Georgia games this year. Going back and forth to those games, and that was what scared me about them. Is you're not going to beat a good team, a good disciplined team, who's going to play 40 minutes when you're only, who's going to play 60 minutes when you're only playing 30.
Yeah. I mean, I'll speak to it. That's what Clemson looked like. Clemson against Texas, we get extremely tired and we take the foot off the gas in the second half. And that's just how we lose games. That's how Georgia lost the game. Notre Dame had 31 minutes and 47 seconds of possession time to
You're not
Georgia's 28 minutes and 13 seconds.
which ain't
That
bad
was a
if you're
lot.
doing something when you have the ball.
Mhm.
Like if you look at Gunner stats, Gunner might have threw for 250. It's not bad. You can win football games with that. He
234 and
ran,
20 out of 32.
you can win football games like that. He ran the
Absolutely.
ball fairly well. You can win football games like that. But when you're playing against a team like Notre Dame, Notre Dame is extremely physical, and you play against a team that's gonna bring it. You have to bring it, and they didn't. They didn't. They when you're missing your quarterback of all people, you can't afford mistakes.
Mm-mm. And
And Notre
that's
Dame,
where it ended. Was Notre Dame had zero turnovers, zero interceptions. They won the turnover margin.
and they turn their turnovers into points,
Mhm.
and that's a recipe for losing games. And after Georgia has to look at themselves and defensive wise, they're okay. And I'm just not saying that because you know who's on the team, but just watching that defense, they're okay. A lot of people want to put it on the defense. It's not the defense. You can't expect your defense to stop every single drive. Nobody defense can do that when you're
No.
constantly on the field. Your offense going three and out. You can't get your running game going. You're putting the ball in guys' hands and they're dropping it. Like, what do you expect?
There's not much to
Honestly,
expect with that. I mean, it does come down to it was a backup quarterback. That was his first, career start, and it happened to be in one of the biggest games he'll probably play in his life. And Carson Beck definitely made an impact not being out there. Being injured definitely was not something that Georgia saw coming, but they did the best with what they could, I would say.
yeah, they didn't do bad, man. This just like I said, that strip sack when they got the ball inside the 20, easy touchdown. Now
Hmm.
you going into halftime with momentum, and to come out and run the kickoff back like
Yeah, I
that.
I watched both of those plays intensely. I believe it was what a second or third down situation for Georgia on the strip sack, and then the touchdown, and then I saw the kickoff return. The kickoff return, I knew it was done. I knew Georgia had nothing in them after that.
Yeah, it was over. It took the air out of the stadium. Like
Yeah.
the fans, everybody just knew. You could see it. Of course, you holding out hope, but you ain't been able to do nothing all game. So you essentially down 20-3 at this point. Notre Dame not letting you come back from that.
Mm-mm. No,
they're
Notre
too
Dame's gonna hold
they're,
that as best as they can.
they're too well coached. They're too physical. Um, they have just I'm not they have a lot of talent on that team. So
Yeah, an
so
exceeding amount of talent. I think this is going to be a great game for them when they play Penn State. I'm very excited to watch that on January 9th.
yeah, I mean honestly, I'm looking at Notre Dame and Ohio State. Ohio State, I thought should win. Just if you just go off of talent, nobody. I mean, and just going into the year, nobody has as much talent as they had. They just had to figure it out. And I mean, what they did to Oregon was no one saw that coming. I mean, I felt
I did not.
I felt like they would win going into that game, but
Oh yeah.
if I sit here and say that I thought that they would be up 31-0 at half,
Mm-mm.
that wouldn't be true.
If you told me that, early on in the season, I would have laughed at you. But then they come out and they put up those amount of points in one half. What, 21 in the first quarter, I believe it was, maybe more.
We were on the way. Like after everything that took place, we kind of we kind of stayed in where we were staying at. And as that game came on, I was meeting up with my guys at the casino to watch the game.
Hmm.
And once I got there and seeing the score, it's like, oh man, this is over with. We actually took the over in the game, which was 63 points.
Mm.
Uh, we took the under, which was 63 points. I'm sorry, the under. And so we're sweating the whole time, like, man, please don't score. Please don't score no more. Like, so I mean, it
But
was,
they had 21 points in the first quarter,
yeah,
and then they
yeah.
just piled it on after that.
Shout out to Edric Houston, man, with Ohio State. He played high school ball with my nephew. He did, he had a couple quarterback pressures. He did real good. Proud of him, man. Proud of him. Definitely wishing Ohio State, the best. But talent wise, man, it's gonna be hard for anybody to match up with them. 5 stars on both sides of the ball at every position that matters. It's this kid Jeremiah Smith, man. Oh my God.
He is insane. You could not hold him for anything.
it's um it's a disappointing year, coming, for me and my family. We expected a lot more. But this is part of the game, man. You're gonna have wins, you're gonna have losses. I don't like to lose in the manner in which I felt like we didn't necessarily fight. I don't think that they were put in the best position to succeed. It's almost like you're playing to try to keep the game close, and then you're hoping something happens in the end of the game. Gunner Gunner is a talented quarterback. He was a 4 star when he came out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Broke Trevor Lawrence high school records. This kid's not a slouch. Got to turn it. You got to turn it loose. What I think, the innovation of football has changed so much, right? And sometimes as coaches and as coordinators, the game pass you by if you can't adapt to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Mike, like Mike Bobo, he's a good guy. I know him personally. Good guy. But if you cannot adapt to the way that football is being played right now, Kirby can use you in another position, but you cannot be the coordinator. Georgia offense is so predictable. I know little league coaches that call more complex plays than he calls. Literally, you can watch first down. Okay, he's going to run the ball, get 2 yards. Going to run the ball again on second down. You get no yards, and everybody know you have to throw the ball on third down at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You're too predictable.
Yeah,
So, you know,
I learned that the hard way, just by playing CF25. I can't, it's you got to mix things up as a coach and as a coordinator, and watching what Georgia's offense could not do at certain times was like, this isn't what we've seen with Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck at the helm. They've been scoring drives, getting down the field in less than a minute and being able to put up 7 on the board. But what we saw against Notre Dame was just not a normal Georgia defense, and it's got me a little concerned for next year as to what Georgia can do. Can they shore it up in the offseason, make some good moves in the transfer portal, and bring in some people, or are they just going to stick with what they got?
but the wide receiver position has to get better. It can't get no worse. You know, and like I said, defense. Georgia gonna be good on defense. I'm not worried about them defensively. Offensively is where I'm worried about them at, because you think about the whole landscape of college football and with the NIL and the transfer portal. Prior to all of these things, the SEC had won 13 or 15 national championships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And outside of California and Texas, your best players typically come from the South. So the SEC has a big pool of players to choose from. So when you take schools like Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Texas A&M, Auburn, they have 5 stars backing up 5 stars.
Right.
But now you throw in NIL and you throw in the transfer portal. Guys not waiting to play anymore. So if you
Mm-mm.
have an injury to an injury can easily sway the balance of power to another school that has those same exact players that you would have had prior to NIL and transfer portal. These kids are playing now, you know. So you can't, and that's what I mean by adapting to the way that the game is being played now. You can't sit back on your laurels. If teams that you are supposed to dominate have to dominate these teams, get your guys out there, get your guys rest. But when you're out here and you're playing inferior, not necessarily inferior teams, I don't believe in the SEC anything can happen. But when you're playing teams that you should dominate, you have to dominate these teams. When you playing Kentucky, who had a strong year to come out, but how you see how they fizzled out. When you playing teams like that, but you're in a dog fight for the fight of your life. When you're playing a team like Auburn, you're in a dog fight for your life. You got to dominate these teams and get your players out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia didn't dominate nobody this year except
Mm-mm.
for schools who any school would have dominated. And people naturally are going to put things on the defense. But
Naturally.
like I'm telling you, I was to these games. The defense ain't the problem. It's when you cannot sustain drives, when your offense cannot move the ball, when you three and out, first down here. And if your defense keeps you in a ball game where you're going in to score 13 and 10 and a half, you're down, then all of a sudden in the second half, your offense come out and it's damn explosive. Why you ain't done that in the first half? And then when you do that in the first half, instead of going up, instead of being down 13 to 10, now maybe you up 27-7 because your defense is charged
Mm-hmm.
because they were able to rest. Now you come out, you score another touchdown or get you a touchdown and a field goal. Now you can bring a Gunner Stockton in. And then his first game in a meaningful game or a game with good talent ain't the Sugar Bowl. We just where's win or go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nah. But there's an interesting thing that was brought up a while ago. Every team that had a bye week for the first round of the playoffs
Lost.
lost.
Every last one of them lost.
Every single one of them lost. And I will say the only one out of all of these that I probably enjoyed watching the most, it was Texas and Arizona
Texas
State.
and Arizona State.
It's
Texas and
simply
Arizona
because
State.
of how good both offenses were and how good both defenses were. I mean, Cam Scatabo was outstanding. That was the first time I've seen him play all year. And from that one game of me watching him play and everything he did, over I think 150 plus rushing, had a passing touchdown, had two or three rushing touchdowns. But just simply by watching him and the way that he plays and reads the field and is so tough and smart and intelligent with football IQ, he is going to play in somebody's backfield in the NFL this year.
I mean, if you hadn't picked the games of who you thought was going to be the best game, naturally everybody would have said Georgia Notre Dame.
Exactly.
Nobody would have thought Texas and Arizona State would have been. Even after Georgia and Notre Dame, you would have picked Ohio State and Oregon. I believe everybody that watched 30 seconds of football knew
Yes.
Penn State was going to dominate Boise because Boise State runs the ball and they just don't have the talent to compete with Penn State. They
And
don't
they
have the
never did.
talent.
The only
That's
time that
not the
they
same.
competed with a top 10 team was Oregon in that first game. But that's the first game. Nobody's hurt. Nobody's,
Yeah.
super fatigued from the year. Everybody's raring to go opening day of college football. That's a given, you know.
And nobody
Everybody's
know
going to
who
play
Agenti
well.
was. No, nobody knew that guy.
Nobody knew.
Nobody knew that he was going to be who he turned out to be.
Exactly.
So now that we have tape on what you guys like to do, we can
Yeah,
neutralize that. Did you take him out the game and who is Boise State quarterback? Who are their receivers? No,
yeah.
you never heard
I
of these
don't
guys.
know any of them.
Exactly. So nobody expected anything from that particular game. Texas, I expected to go out there and manhandle Arizona State simply because Like I said, talent wise, Arizona State coached a phenomenal game. But at the end of the day, when you get in an overtime game, 5 stars are going to beat 2 and 3 stars. They're better players
Exactly.
than them. They're going to win.
An overtime game is something not to be taken lightly, and they did fight to go 2 overtimes with Texas is an outstanding thing to do, and shout out to Arizona State for doing that because even Clemson couldn't do that. I mean, it was I loved watching that game. That was probably my favorite game that I've watched all year.
Yeah, it was a good one. But just overall, and there's a lot of people asking for things to change as far as, oh, we got to change the way we see the teams now. Next week now, oh, we don't need to have the buys. You just got to be ready to play football. That's the bottom line. You just have to have your team ready. And the Georgia situation, man, listen, so much happened in New Orleans this past week, this weekend going into the week, that I knew that hangup was going to affect one of those teams. I knew it was. Um, it just affected Georgia, and condolences to Kirby Smart and his family. His dad passed.
But not.
Yeah, his dad passed. He had a fall. I want to say the day before the game, he fell, broke
Mm,
his hip, and he had to have surgery, and he died in surgery. So it just was a lot that happened down there, man. And who's to say that if that's not? Of course, you want to block out as much as you can mentally, focus on the football game, man. But that city, it changed everything after the incident where the guy drove the truck down Bourbon Street. It changed everything. It didn't feel like New Year's. It didn't feel like you down here for the Sugar Bowl. It was, we are ready to go home.
yeah.
And that's everybody. I'm talking to people I talked to in the stadium on both sides, Georgia and Notre Dame. Everybody was ready to go home. And I had a conversation with my nephew today. I won't get into what me and him talked about, but basically, he's doing okay. He played his heart out, but everybody was ready to go home. And then to hear what happened to Kirby's dad is how can you focus on football when you're dealing with stuff like that? You do the best that you can, but life trumps everything, and it just wasn't a good it wasn't a good football atmosphere because, like I said, we down there, we having a good time. We on Bourbon Street. Something, it was like a shooting or something that happened, and me and my brothers, we like, oh, okay, yeah, look, let's go. And this is about 2:45.
Mm,
3:15 is when this guy did whatever he did. Did what he did, not whatever he did. Drove the street down there. No disrespect to the people that lost their lives, but when he drove that car down there, it changed the atmosphere of the city, and no one was talking about football. Everybody was ready for the game to be played so they could go home. Everybody wanted to leave that city. So if
it's
the fans and everybody felt like that, how many players felt like that? How many
yeah.
coaches felt? And then on
It's an
top of,
unfortunate situation for them to have to play in.
yeah,
But it's pretty much going back to when the Saints played after what Hurricane Katrina, I believe it was, and bringing life back to everybody. Giving them
yeah,
something to take their minds off of it. And people will speak a lot about that. Oh, it's wrong to play football after a tragedy. No, I think it's healing to play football after a tragedy for some people, not for everybody, but for some people. Because see, for me, I thought, well, there's still a game that has to be played. It's unfortunate that this situation has happened to these people and these families, but people get a break from it, even if it's for 4 hours. There's a break.
and that's true, and I agree with that. But we're speaking as fans. What about the players? Because they are human beings too. And
Yeah.
then when your coach dad is going through what he's going through, which by default, I'm assuming that everybody on the team knew. Play, you try to block it out the best way you can, and that's all you could do. But at the end of the day, at one day, when playing high school ball myself, I can probably attest to all week your preparation is for Friday. All of your emotions is geared on Friday. Everything is geared for Friday. Then for Friday to come, for the game to be 8 o'clock Friday night, and then at 12, 1 o'clock that afternoon, somebody tell you that the game gonna be played the next day. Now you got to bring yourself all the way back down and try to shift your mind to 3 o'clock the next day. Emotionally, you're not, and making no excuses because you got to be ready to play. You got to be ready to play, but it's going to happen. And unfortunately, it happened to, what happened to Georgia, I believe. It just was a lot, man. Shout out to New Orleans, not, but I ain't in no rush to go back. I hope we're not there next year. Let's go to Miami. Let's go to the Rose Bowl. Let's do something else. Hopefully, we're not back there next year. I am in no rush to get back to that place.
Yeah. I don't think anybody is after that unfortunate situation. I think that's a destination they can cross off their list if they were there and especially involved in that scenario.
Yeah, football wasn't nothing nobody was talking about in the town after that. I mean, leading up to it, like, I believe, let me see, I got there Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, something like that. And the energy was so live. Just being downtown with the people, being up and down Canal, everybody, Notre Dame, Georgia, everybody having a good time, John, fan talk, having a good time, all in good fun, no incidents or nothing going on. And then that night, all of that took place, and it just took all of the football energy away. I love it.
I can't even imagine.
It
Can't
was
even
draining.
imagine.
Just fans, everybody ready to go home and get out of that city, man. Everybody, because you can't enjoy yourself no more. The football players are there for football, but the fans are there for the experience of what goes on during this, in the city that time for the football game, jaw back, and these are the things that make football and sports fun. But to have something like that happen, man, where literally it takes the energy out of the whole city, whether it's the residents who you talking to, who like, man, we ain't never had nothing like this happen before. And I was in the Uber with somebody from New Orleans. Guy was like, man, a shooting, that ain't nothing. And you like, a shooting ain't nothing. He like, yeah, man, a shooting, that's normal. But to have this happen, man, this is different. And I remember my wife telling me when we got down there, she said, something don't feel right. Something don't feel right. And to have all of these things happen, man, then you got to go out here and as a player and play a game, man. I can only imagine the job of the coaches to try to keep those guys locked in. The job of the player to try to stay focused, knowing that you have family in the city who could have been affected by that. You know what I mean? And it didn't really hit me until the next day when I seen the footage of how that guy came down that street, man. And that's the exact same way we walked out when we left. And just to think 20 minutes later, we would have been right there, bro. 20 minutes later.
Well, I'm
Football.
glad y'all and everybody else who got out of there, and prayers and vibes up to everybody who lost theirs, and condolences to that family and those victims.
Yeah, man. So, but big shout out to Notre Dame, man. They played a physical game. Wasn't no ifs, and or buts about it from the first snap to the last. They played, bro. I mean, just physically dominated from start to finish. Physically dominated.
And that's something we have not seen really from Notre Dame is the continuous domination in the NCAA. And for them to be an independent conference and get in and catch everybody's attention like this is nothing short of outstanding. I pulled for Notre Dame, uh, the other day when they played Georgia, and then I pulled for Boise. I wanted Boise to win. I thought they were the underdog, and I like the underdog. And then pulled for Oregon because I don't like Ohio State. And then I wanted Arizona State to win. I wanted it to be a completely new bracket. Nobody that has been here before. But we
So
don't
my
have to see it
thing,
if we want.
my thing is this, right? And it's funny because I'm a lifelong, listen, I am a lifelong Notre Dame fan. I've been a
Okay.
Notre Dame fan since I can remember football. And with nephew going to Georgia, by default, I have to be a Georgia fan. I
I
gotta
got
root
you.
for my family. So the first time I get to see my team play, I can't root for them. And so it's I'm sitting in the game like, oh man, my wife sitting beside me, she teasing me, you can't cheer for your team. I was like, yeah, I can't. Happy for him. So I'm riding with Notre Dame from here on out. Now I get to not now I get to be a Notre Dame fan. I get to be natural right now. I don't see nobody to me other than Ohio State physically can come with the physicality that Notre Dame. If they bring what they brought against Georgia, and I ain't gonna make no excuses for Georgia, they got pushed over in every three phases of the game, offense, defense, special team. It got handled. They play like that. It can compete with any of these teams left in there. They have the talent. I mean, they have the talent. I don't know if I haven't read anything as far as what happened to Love or will he be available to play because Love is a beast. Love is a man out there, man. He's a grown man. Um, they gonna be able to they can fight with any of these teams. And Notre Dame has always been a good program. The big stage has always got them. When Brian Kelly was there, I did not like Brian Kelly as my coach because
No,
he could get them there, but then once they got there,
he
the
didn't
moment
always
was
do.
just too big, and it wasn't even like you competed. You went out there and got trampled over. So I was walking down, we was leaving the stadium, and Notre Dame fans came up to us and said, "Oh, Georgia, they can never win a big game." I stopped and two national championships in 3 years compared to none since the 80s. But I guess, I mean,
I
when you
guess
win, you can
Georgia
say
can't
whatever
do
you
it.
want. Yeah, when you win, you can say whatever you want. But yeah, man, I'm extremely sad because I wanted nephew to be in there, but happy as a Notre Dame fan because this looked like this could be the year that the Irish do something. So
Well, I mean,
and
there's still
Marcus
two
Freeman,
games left. Their game against Penn State and then the championship game. And, they just got to be able to hold out. Penn State is a
yeah,
very physical team. They can throw the ball, they
yeah,
can run the ball, and their defense is as stout as we've seen it in recent years.
yeah. What Notre Dame got to do with the same thing they did against Georgia, just keep Penn State offense off the field and just
That's
let it be
all
a
they
game
have to do.
won. Let it. I mean, it sounds easy. We talking. It sounds easy, but just let it be a game won in the trenches because you're not gonna go out there and you're not gonna outfit a physical Marcus Freeman team. He got them boys ready, man. I don't
I
know
don't know
what
what
he
he has,
tells
but
them.
his
I don't know
program is
what
a
he
program
says,
I need.
man. They lay hats on people. They ain't scared. Like when you take a team and you line them up against, your SEC powerhouses, your Alabamas, your Georgias, your Texas, your Texas A&M. These goals, these high standard program. Notre Dame ain't putting their head down. They coming out there. We here
Notre Dame stands
and
right up.
they bringing it, man. They bringing it, and I'm proud of them. And it's being a Notre Dame fan since the '80s and all my heartache and all that stuff I went through, and we had Manti Te'o, I'm talking trash against them Alabama fans. We go out there and get beat by 100. This is the year that it looks like okay.
Oh
We got the right man with the right message who can galvanize the troops, get these boys ready to go. They were up to play Georgia. I just hope that they didn't get themselves up too high to where they don't have nothing else left and go out there and let Penn State walk all over them. Penn State's a tough team. Don't get me wrong. Penn State is a tough team, but
yeah, they
what a
they are.
damn right.
No, so the team to beat supposedly right now, best roster in college football is Ohio State. What does Texas have to do to beat Ohio State with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning back there? I mean, you've got Ewers who can throw the ball, and you've got Manning who can do a little bit of both. I mean, how do you manage a team that consistently, swaps out their quarterback like that?
So I don't think Ohio State is gonna pretty much change anything. Texas got to be able to number one try to neutralize because you're not going to stop all these guys. Got to be able to try to neutralize them and let your defense slow the game down. But if you letting Jeremiah Smith go over the top 50 and 6, they're gonna blow you out because you're not gonna score with them. You know, and other than Georgia, who else has really Texas played all year? And we can just look at their schedule and say, okay, yeah, they matched up well. This is top. Other than Georgia, who have they played?
So they played Michigan second week of this year. They played Georgia. They played A&M, and then they played Georgia again. Other than that, their only losses came to Georgia twice this year so far.
You see, I mean, Michigan turned out to start finding their stride towards the end of the season, and Michigan's gonna be something to dealt with. Coach Sherrod got them boys down there. They buying in, they balling, and they have a lot of good talent coming in. Michigan's gonna be a problem next year. Um, Still don't think they're gonna be on Ohio State level, but Michigan's gonna be a problem. But Texas schedule just you don't really get to see them match up with a team, and even Georgia. Georgia offense is not high powered to what they're getting ready to face now. Defense wise, Texas defense ain't nothing to play with either. But Texas got some weapons. I don't know if Barnes gonna play. I don't know if Isaiah Barnes gonna play. Holden's pretty good, but Jeremiah Smith. you know, Will Howard slinging the ball. I mean, this what they've been able to do these past couple weeks has kind of surprised everybody because I believe this is what everybody expected from them that you haven't seen really all year like that. Especially after the Michigan loss, everybody wrote them off. Like,
Yeah,
oh man, this.
Howard's lowest passing game this year was at 201 against Indiana when they won 38-15 before they played Michigan.
Yeah,
So he will, well, I'm sorry, when they played Michigan, 175 was his lowest. I'm sorry. But
yeah.
if we're talking about strength of schedule, I believe Ohio State has the easier schedule because they played Oregon and then they played Penn State and then they played Indiana and they lost to Oregon by 1 point. So
Yeah,
I believe Texas has the tougher schedule.
Georgia had a brutal schedule this year. Once that October stretch hit, and they had to play Alabama, you got to turn around and you had Texas, where you might have had Ole Miss first, either Texas or Ole Miss, one of those. However, they in the mix. That October Georgia schedule was brutal, and for them to come out of it with just the one loss, well, with two losses, they lost to Ole Miss and Alabama. Um, but and I believe Texas has a good team, and they have a shot if they come out and play there. But you just cannot think that you're gonna go score for score with Ohio State. You're not going 45-50. I don't believe it'll be a 45-50 game.
No.
In order for Texas to be able to win, they gotta try to keep it high 20s to low 30s. If they could do that, they'll be okay.
I would say so. I mean, Ohio State, Texas, January 10th at 7:30. The Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic game will be a good one and one that I suggest everybody watches because I'm personally excited to see a quarterback shootout between hopefully three different quarterbacks. We get to see Arch Manning play in this semifinal game. That'll be a great debut for him to hopefully come out here and sling the ball some. But we more than likely will see more just Quinn and Will Howard. So how do they shut down Will Howard? We know he doesn't run a whole lot. He likes to throw this ball. So how do they shut that down?
They got to be able to get they got to be able to get pressure from the D line. You know, 'cause if you give him time, those receivers they are going to get open. They are just too fast. So they have to be able to get pressure from the front. That's to me. That would be the only chance. Your front four got to bring pressure. You got to You got to schematically be able to blitz and get those guys back there to where those receivers are not able to fully get into their route. They're not able to speed past your corners and all those things like that. So it's Ohio State defensive line has got to play lights out. You got to play lights out. They need pressure. If you can get Will Howard uncomfortable back there. Got a shot. Try to keep everything in front of you. If those guys get behind you, man. I mean, and like I said, I didn't get to watch the first part of the Oregon game. By the time I did get settled the way I could watch it, it wasn't even an interesting game to watch. It's 31-0. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it
So,
was uninteresting from the start.
yeah. So, but just going back to the Tennessee game, I mean, these guys going down the field, 70-yard catches,
Yeah.
80-yard catches. You're not gonna beat nobody. You.
If you
So
stop Will Howard from throwing the ball and force them to run it, you got a chance to win. But
yeah,
if you sit back on your toes and allow him to throw this ball underneath and then 60 yards, because they will kill you with underneath passing, and then they'll just go straight for the long shot. They'll take underneath all day long. Underneath is 3, 4 yards of play. So they'll take that all game long. And they'll run the ball a short yardage all game long. But what they're setting you up for is that deep passing. They're bringing you in, and then they're going to throw it 60 yards deep.
it's. I don't envy Ohio State defensive coordinator to be able to have to challenge that because Ryan Day has those guys playing. Ryan Day got those guys playing good ball right now.
Now, that's another question. Ryan Day has been on the hot seat this year a little bit. Fans have been talking about it. Analysts have been talking about it. Is he still there, or you think he's kind of cleared his name, or does it matter what he does in this game?
So just think about this: if you get rid of Ryan Day, who do you go get?
I don't even know who's open and coaching right now. I mean,
I
Bill
mean, one thing
Belichick just got grabbed by North Carolina.
you don't want Bill Belichick at Ohio State. That's the Bill Belichick hire is kind of what Ohio Colorado kind of looked at as the Dion hire. It's gonna put you in a national spotlight. And Dion did phenomenal down there in 2 years. But no one saw that coming. That was a spotlight grabber to bring national attention to your program because there's nothing else going on down there. This is what Bill Belichick, the hire to North Carolina, is. Is Bill Belichick going to take North Carolina? Are they going to beat Clemson? No. Um, do we know anything about how well Bill Belichick can recruit? Because this ain't about coaching. Because you got to recruit the kids before you can coach them. And when you come from and I'm not saying Bill Belichick has this, but a lot of older people are stuck in their ways, And if you just go in here, oh, well, I coach Tom Brady, yada yada yada. Okay, but these kids now making millions of dollars. How much you gonna pay Bill Belichick? You
Mhm.
know which.
That's the thing is the money talks now. Like you mentioned earlier, the NIL deals talk now, and it's something that we hate to see happen in the college football. It's taken, at least to me, it feels like it's taken some of the love out of the sport, and these kids just want to get paid.
No, no, no. And what's wrong with that? Because if you look at the back, if it just it's never about just think about it's never what you see, okay? It's what you don't see, right?
Mhm.
So if I can take a kid, just think me, I run a, just say hypothetically speaking, I run a multi-billion-dollar business.
Mhm.
If I can afford to pay you or anybody else multi-million dollar salaries, how much money am I making? Okay. Nobody never complained about whoever was that's making billions, not million, billions of dollars off of these kids. And they'll turn around and say, well, oh, we give you a free education. Okay. Well, give me my millions and I'll pay for my own education. You don't understand it until you get into the minds of these players. Well, just take Reggie Bush, for example. You got to sign autographs to put money in your pocket so you can eat, so you can just buy food. Your family can't afford to come see you play. These are things that these players deal with, you know. You go to school in Florida, you're a kid out of California, and your mom and dad never get to see you play because you don't have no money to get them back and forth to the games. That's
Mhm.
not fair. That's not right. But meanwhile, you get all of my jersey sales, all these ticket sales, all these millions and billions of dollars that these kids generate. You ain't giving me nothing. Nothing. And now that the playing fields are even, people saying it's making college football bad. No, it's making college football better. Because had the NIL not came up, you know who will be playing in the national championship? Alabama and Georgia. You know who will be playing in it next year? Alabama and Georgia. You know who will be playing in it the year after that? Alabama and Georgia. But now you got these top athletes. They not going to Alabama and Georgia. Alabama and Georgia gonna get one or two of them. But if Alabama can't afford to pay me because they paid their quarterback, now I can go to Arizona State. Or I don't feel bad about going over here because the talent is there. Good players gonna be good players. So now it makes the sport better because the talent is spread out versus it always being at Alabama or always being at Georgia or always being at Florida or wherever else, Florida State or whatever. Just think
Mhm.
what happened to remember one time the schools in Florida ran it. Florida State and Miami. You know what
Mhm.
happened with that? You know what happened with that? A lot of these other little smaller schools became bigger schools. So the talent got spread out.
Mhm.
It wasn't Florida State in Florida or Miami no more. It was Florida State, Florida, Miami, Central Florida, Florida Atlantic. All these other schools started coming up. So now I mean he a 5 star, I'm a 4 star. I might not be better than him, but I could start somewhere.
Mhm.
Now I can go and somewhere where I can play immediately because everybody want to play.
Mhm.
I want to see you and ride the bench when I know I may not be as good as you, but I'm good enough to start somewhere else. So the transfer portal NIL made it to where all these kids now don't have to sit and wait; they can go play. And not only that, you can take the same physical sport that these people that people are asking you to play. And every play of football, whether people want to look at it or not, every play of football is life and death. This is a full contact sport. Normal people don't play football. And everybody that's good or great at college, that talent don't transcend to the NFL. Either you get there and you fizzle out, or either you was good in high school and you wasn't good enough in college, or worse than that, you get hurt.
Yeah.
You don't even get a chance to fulfill that dream. So at least now, with you getting paid, you may not be able to take care of the whole family, but at least you good for life. Now you can focus on school and do whatever else you has to do. So the NIL, man, it's good on so many fronts. It's good on so many fronts. And and eventually they're gonna regulate it, just like they do everything else. They're gonna
Mhm.
regulate it. But it's a great thing because It's unfair for me to make you billions of dollars and for me to tell you, well, I'm feeding you and that's enough. That's not right.
Yeah, you talking about regulating the NIL deals.
Yeah, they
James Franklin, Penn State head coach, said that we need a commissioner of college football and that Nick Saban would be a good candidate to do that.
they're gonna get a CBA. They're gonna essentially run it kind of how the NFL is. They're gonna have a collective
Do you
bargaining.
think at that point, if it's being run like the NFL, that we will see players get fined for penalties and not doing certain things that they're supposed to be doing?
It's possible. It's possible.
Mm,
But then, I mean, but if you look at it, what is it preparing you for? The NFL. So
I mean, if you
is
make it,
but even if you don't make it, you take a 17-year-old kid, Brian Williams,
Brian
Alabama.
Williams, yep.
You know what I mean? This kid has the ability now to take care of his people. We don't know his situation or his how his family is, but he's been blessed with a gift that we wish we had. This that's not normal. You know, you should be able to make money off of that, especially if somebody else is making money off of that. Now, it would be something different if nobody was getting paid. Then you can't. Then it's all good. But if you're gonna tell me I play football, especially at these major universities, me playing football take care of swimming, basketball, fencing, bowling, golf, because ain't nobody else coming to watch these other sports. So I'm going out here risking myself and I don't get anything. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't go to work so that your boss could be rich and you don't get nothing. In this football, this is work what these kids are doing, man. These kids a lot of them don't have no life. This is, you go to class, you work out, you got film study, you got team meetings, you got practice. You don't have a lot of time. So man, it's to me. I mean, I think they should have been done it.
Mm, I guess we'll see how it goes without, this is what, first year with it in there? The NIL, second year?
Coming up on the third, I want to say.
Coming up on the third, okay. We'll see how it goes. So far, it's been beneficial to teams such as Notre Dame, Penn State, teams not being able to get in and getting in, Arizona State. And I think there's a lot
And
of speculation that the 12 team playoff was not going to be what everybody thought it would be. They all thought that we would just see the same teams in here again, like we would if we had the 4 team seed. But I like the 12 team playoff. I didn't know how to feel about it at first, but after watching the first official games of the 12 team playoff, I love it. Gives us more college football. Will give us different teams each year. I don't think we'll have one individual team running it every year like we did with Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia. So I think it's going to be interesting, and I think we need to keep it at 12.
I think they were talking about expanding it to 16, and I think there was
16 would be
almost,
incredibly too much.
yeah, that's. Yeah,
And I
I
don't think
think
that would
12.
push us back near where the Super Bowl is.
But then you putting garbage teams in who don't belong in at that point, because who
Yeah.
you gonna get out of it? So
The
the thing
team like
about,
Coastal
I mean,
Carolina get in there.
just think about this: the 14 and the 14 playoff, the 15 is always gonna be mad. You don't really hear nothing from the 16, but the 15 gonna always be mad. So you take it to 12, and guess who mad?
The
13.
14th, the 13th, and the 14th. Yeah.
So when you take it to 16, you know who gonna be mad?
The 17th.
So it ain't never gonna be a perfect. It ain't gonna be a perfect system. 12 is good because you get your conference championships. You get your conference champions, and you get a Boise State or somebody like that, and you able to bring in another SEC team who did good, another Big Ten team who did good. The good thing about that is they rarely don't have to play each other. And if you meet up, you just meet up. But when
Yeah.
you take a team like the year that Georgia lost to Alabama, beat you in the SEC championship. Now I got to play you in a national champion. It's hard to beat a team twice.
Incredibly.
I think it's
It's not something you see often done unless you're in the NFL. If you're in the NFL, then you see a team getting beat twice in a 3 week span by the same team because that's just how NFL schedules are. But in college, it is incredibly difficult.
yeah. I think it's a good thing. I think playoffs didn't fail. I mean, you can't say that, oh, well, everybody got blowed out. So, but just think, if these teams, first of all, the talent isn't. I mean, Boise State is a good team, but who does Boise State play throughout the year that will make you think that they're gonna play against a Power Five team and make it interesting?
They hardly played against anybody all year.
Tennessee didn't. Tennessee Ohio State game didn't surprise me. Tennessee is a solid team, but Ohio State is an elite team. Not surprised by that.
I wasn't surprised either seeing them come out there and blow out Tennessee the way they did. And just continuously keep pressure is not something that we saw it coming. Nobody was
Now,
surprised that Ohio
Oregon,
State can come out there and score like that.
Oregon and Ohio State, or I mean, Oregon came out flat. Obviously, they came out flat. But who would have a problem if they played again next year, or who would have a problem if Oregon is in it again next year? Nobody, because Oregon is a solid program. So
Hmm.
the playoffs didn't do bad. Ohio State. Everybody's gonna complain about a Big 12 team because don't nobody respect the Big 12. They gonna get mollywopped every year. Nobody respects that. Nobody. I mean, who? Arizona State wins the Big 12. Okay, I mean, so the gripes going. I mean, and even going to the ACC. I mean, Clemson won the ACC. Clemson is a good program. Does anybody have a problem with Clemson being in there? No, they just had a bad game. That Clemson team ain't a Clemson team that we've been accustomed to seeing for the last 10 to 15 years. That happens.
Yeah,
It
and that
happens.
that Clemson game to all Clemson fans out there, that was a heartbreaking game to watch because Cade Klubnik did not play horrible. The fact that we had our star running back out did not help either. And Texas was absolutely just the better team.
Who's surprised by that? Because you watched
Nobody.
them play all year.
Yeah, I knew it as soon as that first round schedule came out. I said we lost.
Now, go to Penn State, solid top 10 program every year. So they gonna be in it again next
This
year.
year. Yep.
You already know what Georgia gonna bring. Alabama was a surpriser, so you expect them to bounce back. What team in there could you say, oh man, they shouldn't have been in there? Just going by the rules, what team in there could you, oh man, they shouldn't have been in there? None of them. And even Boise State. Boise State has been a respectable program for a very, very, very long time. But they just don't play that national schedule that people will give them recognition for. Now,
I will
Boise State gonna
say
have to get out. They're gonna have to get out of that conference, that MAC conference they in, if they want the respect. They're gonna have to get out that conference.
I will
But
say the only team personally that I feel did not deserve to be there was SMU. Even though what they did against Clemson, coming back against Clemson in the ACC championship, they just couldn't hold up to Penn State in their physicality.
I I'll give I'll give you that one. I won't argue against that. I won't argue against that. Or my only argument would be they played their schedule and
Yeah.
they won the game.
I mean,
But if you
I'm not
go,
mad at it. I definitely agreed at the end of that game. Hey, they deserve to be in it. But then watching them play against Penn State, not seeing the physicality for them to match up with Penn State and losing by 28 points was not what I saw. I thought that they were going to be able to come out and go shot for shot with Penn State.
And I hate to say this, but you ain't been watching ball all year. SMU is a fast speed team. SMU quarterback, what's the kid's name? It's on the tip of my tongue. But he's a dude. But outside of that, who else you got? I want to say Keith Jennings or something. Keith something. I want to say
His name, I believe it's Kevin Jennings.
Kevin. Yeah, okay.
Kevin
Keith Kevin
Jennings.
Jennings. Kevin Jennings. Okay, but he had a good year.
He was phenomenal. But they just did not have the physicality against Penn State to play.
They don't
He
have
was
the talent.
phenomenal against us. Yeah.
They don't have the talent. So if you go program for program, that was in the 12. People gonna have something to say because Alabama ain't in it. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
If
Nah.
they would have lost, listen. If they would have lost to Vanderbilt during the BCS before they went to the 12, when you
Mm-hmm.
still had you still don't make it because that's a horrible loss.
Yeah.
That's a horrible loss. Okay, so people want to see Alabama in there, but what Alabama do in their bowl game? They got Michigan manhandled them. They weren't ready this year. I'm a South Carolina dude. I like South Carolina. From South Carolina, love that team, and I think that team is gonna be great next year.
Next year is I'm terrified of South Carolina. Absolutely
They gonna
terrified of
smoke.
South
They
Carolina
gonna
next year.
smoke. They gonna smoke Clemson next year, and you know it.
I'm terrified because Sellers coming back. Sellers he's a freshman, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
So with him
So
coming back next year, having Shane Beamer, their coach still, I think there's only the rise for them. That's just how it is. They're just going to be more competitive next year.
this wasn't their year. Mental
No.
errors killed South Carolina during that game against LSU. They got LSU beat. They had like 2 or 3 pick sixes in that game. The team wasn't disciplined enough to maintain those wins because even you getting pick sixes, you win these games. I think they had 2 or 3 of them, but you're getting them called back for stupid stuff. This wasn't their year. They wasn't ready this year. Next year, South Carolina going to be something to deal with. Miami want to argue you had a chance against Syracuse. You up 20 something points
And you blow it to
and you blow
Syracuse.
it. And then you think that you deserve to be in there? No, you don't deserve to be in there. So outside of SMU, and like I said, and I'm gonna give you that one because I'm talking strictly programs,
Mm-hmm.
notable programs that were in the playoffs, going by programs and then going by the rules. The only team who somebody can say shouldn't have been in it was SMU.
Yeah. And I think there's people out there that would agree with you. But watching, I mean, you could even make the same argument about Tennessee not being in there because they lost by substantially more points than what SMU lost by.
Yeah, but Tennessee played their schedule and they won their games. And Tennessee has a good program. So when you go on program for program, it wasn't no program in there who you could just flat out just say, oh man, they shouldn't have been in there. Like I said, other than SMU, but they beat the teams that were on their schedule. So you got to put them in there because you got to go by your rules. Now, people want Alabama in there. Alabama, you lost to Vanderbilt.
When you needed a win.
After you just beat Georgia the next week, you lose to Vandy.
So
You can
I
lose
don't
any.
understand how Alabama beats Georgia and then loses to Vanderbilt the very
I
next
can
year,
I can tell
very
you
next
why.
week.
I can tell you why. Carson Beck throwing 3 interceptions,
Yeah,
fumbling, and having a safety. So you're talking five
three
turnovers.
interceptions with in his last 3 games.
This Alabama was early in the season. Alabama was
Mm,
like when they first kicked off the meat and potatoes of their schedule. You don't beat nobody throwing 3 interceptions. But then not only that, it still took it still took um an angel to come down and play football for them to win the game. That play Ryan Williams made.
which
So
play?
that last play for them to win the game, that touchdown that he caught to win the game for them, Georgia came back and took the lead. Nick Saban being up on somebody like that, you don't win that game.
Mm-mm.
That's not saying they won't be better next year, but this year they weren't ready this year.
So that's a question that I believe Carson Beck has to answer. Is he going to the NFL?
Yeah, he didn't
So
clear it already.
okay. So then y'all will have Gunnar Helm running it back there, right? Or Gunnar Stockton, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I ain't. I think that I think Gunner gonna be okay. Get him the weapons. I think Gunner will be okay because he ain't scared to get out the pocket. Gunner made some good runs. Even Thursday, Gunner made some good runs. So
Well,
and he ain't
Carson,
scared because in that SEC championship, that boy from Texas hit Gunner so hard. I thought Gunner never play football again. Somebody hit my son like that, I'd have had to run on the field. But Gunner gonna be okay, man. Georgia's gonna be all right. Georgia just got a receivers and the running back future looks so good, man. Nate Frazier is him. True freshman from Compton, California. Nate Frazier had a great year. So I'm not at all. And then Kirby gonna have those guys. Those guys gonna bounce back. So I'm not worried about Georgia.
well, we certainly all we can do is wait another year. Before we go, let's get a little NFL in here. We got Bengals and Steelers playing right now. 0-0, 12-14 in the first. Bengals looking for a win to hopefully get into the wild card and be looking for a playoff. What do they need to do tonight to beat these Steelers?
Just hey baby, just stay disciplined. Steelers will find a way to beat themselves. It last what they on a 3 game skid. Russell
I
Wilson
think
looked
so.
like he's Russell Wilson looked like he 90. Um, just stay disciplined, and a lot of times, a lot of times as coaches, and from experience and from years of watching, situational football is key. Let the game dictate how you coach. Come with a plan for what you want to do now. You have to have a plan. But sometimes your game plan doesn't matches the game situation. So adapt to the situation. And if the Bengals can do that because they offense, man, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, something to deal with. Defense is where the Bengals lack it. And it's been like that for years, ever since Burrow and Chase been there. So if they could just maintain and keep it close. Russell gonna do Russ stuff. Just don't overthink it. Just play the game. Play the game. Just play the game. They'll be okay. I think they win this game, to be honest with you, because of that. Because of that. So we'll talk next week, and you will say, "Oh, Pops, you was right." I'm telling you, that's all they have to
Hey,
do.
I'm gonna sit right here and watch this game after we get off of here, but we've got a couple of other good games tomorrow as well. We've got the Chiefs and Broncos. Broncos needing a win in order to secure their spot. The Buccaneers, I believe, are needing a win as well to secure, and Commanders and Dallas. Well, Commanders have already secured their spot, but
What about the Chiefs? The Chiefs done probably won't
Chiefs are
nobody
the
play for
first
them.
seed. They got
Yeah,
their
so
first week bye.
yeah, so yeah, Denver should
Packers
win that game.
Packers are good. I saw a projection earlier before we hopped on about who needed to win and who needed to lose. But the very interesting one and the one that I was excited to talk about is this Vikings and Lions game. Sunday night football, 8:20
That's
in Detroit.
for the first or the fifth seed, right? And this is crazy because as a Panthers fan,
Hmm.
where was this Sam Donald when we needed a
Right.
quarterback?
Where was he? I mean, where was the Sam Darnold that has 4,153 yards, 35 touchdowns to 12 interceptions? Where
like,
was he?
shout out to the Viking staff, man.
Kevin O'Connell and his staff know what they're doing.
Yeah, they got it figured out.
Speaking
They
of
got it
Jamar
figured out.
Chase and Joe Burrow, there's a 12-yard receiving touchdown by Jamar Chase.
See that right there, man. I'm telling you, look, is Pickens playing? Because as much as
Um,
Pickens is a solution, he's a problem.
exactly. He is a crash out. He is playing. I, however, do not have him in.
They done lost every game since he's been out. Now Pickens is a baller, Georgia boy. Shout out to him. He a baller, but he's emotional. What they have to do is they have to find a way to get him the ball, though, because he really all he got. We got to get this man the
Yeah,
ball.
you've got to get your playmakers the ball when it matters. But at the same time, Tomlin said he needs to grow up. I know you saw the fight where Russell Wilson threw an interception and he immediately started fighting
Yeah.
another player.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that
I
is
mean
one
he
thing.
been doing
But
that since he was at Georgia, and since he been in college, man. That's just who he is, man.
I get he loves the game, but the NFL is a whole different league. He's got to settle
So
down and just
it goes
relax.
it goes like this, man. If you like the Rolls Royce, gotta be able to understand that it drinks gas.
Yeah.
So you can't have you can't have a $500,000 car and complain about it being a gas guzzler, because if you can't afford the gas, you shan't buy the car.
Exactly.
So it's
But
it's
this Lions and Minnesota game, what are we expecting to see? We've got Jared Goff, who's arguably having one of his best years. Sam Darnold, same thing as well. Both offensive clicking in the air and on the ground. Defense is playing absolutely amazing. And this, I don't think this is something I expected from the Detroit defense to do as well as they've had and get
with
to a
all the
14 and
injuries,
2
right?
record without Aiden Hutchinson.
They have like 17 players. It's to the point where they're taking applications. Like if you have a GED, you can play football for the Giants. I mean, not for the Giants. I mean, you don't have to. You as long as if you can walk, you can play football for the Giants. But for the Lions, they so banged up to where they just need anybody. GED, you can work. You can have a job for the Lions. They are coached so well. I expect and Minnesota should win the game, but I wouldn't bet against Detroit. Where they playing at?
They're playing in Detroit.
So yeah. I wouldn't bet against Detroit. If the Super Bowl has to go through Detroit, that's going to be hard. As much as I want to see Philly win, it's going to be hard going through Detroit. It's going to be hard.
I definitely think it will be. Detroit has been waiting a long time for this. So they do they have David Montgomery out for Sunday night. How does that affect their running game with Montgomery being out? Because they have Sonic and Knuckles, the powerhouse and the speedster. So with Montgomery out, how does that affect that? How do you balance that out?
It's going to be rough, But the NFL mantra is next man up.
Hmm.
And you got to stand by it. He hurt, next man come up. You got a job to do. And like I said, man, the key to winning, because when you go into the playoffs, you ain't blowing nobody out 45-20. A lot of these are going to be 3-point games. Got to play situational football. That's what a lot of people um, kind of lose their way at. Just Just think about Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and and 6 Super Bowls. Majority of those Super Bowls were won by field goal kickers.
Hmm.
Master at situational football. Understanding that I don't have to beat you by 10. I just got to beat you by 1. That's it. I just got to beat you by 1. Keep the game, slow the game down. Keep slow the game down. Don't tire your defense out. Make plays on offense, take what they give you, and let your defense bring it home. When you go out here thinking that you got Patrick Mahomes, did you see that throw Lamar Jackson tried to do the skyhook pass today?
I did
When
not.
you go out, yeah, at the beginning of the game, he tried to do a skyhook pass to Derrick Henry. When you go out here trying to do what Andy Reid do,
Yeah,
you don't have the toys that Andy Reid have. But one thing you can say about this is when the Chiefs went on they 9 straight winning streak this year before they lost to Buffalo, they
hmm,
wasn't blowing nobody out. They didn't
mm-mm.
blow nobody out.
It was all close games.
Close games, playing situational football. Win the games that you supposed or definitely win the games that you supposed to win. Don't beat yourself. Don't beat yourself. Stupid penalties and all that stuff like that. People getting antsy. You got to be able to keep your players, keep them calm.
And that's one thing I think the Chiefs are not penalized a lot on are the false starts with Jawan Taylor on that right side. I mean, he consistently moves every play, and it's something I'm surprised I don't see called more.
I mean, they did it for Tom Brady for 20 years. Now it's Patrick Mahomes' turn, and now
And
everybody
that's all I'm
looking.
saying.
You know what's crazy? We loved Tom Brady until he became Tom Brady, and he was
Hmm.
winning, and now you had Patrick Mahomes come up challenging him. Now everybody jumped on Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes. Now that Patrick Mahomes winning, we just looking for the next person to latch on to because you're getting tired of seeing Kansas City win already. That's honestly how we are as sports fans. We want you to win until you win too much, and then we want somebody else to win. And you just said it when you said that, oh, we tired of seeing Georgia and Alabama, and we want other teams in. So it applies all across the board. We want to see you win until you win too much. And when you
Exactly.
start winning too much,
I,
we
you
hate
know,
it.
I said that to your
We're
son.
naturally haters.
I said that to your son and one of our homies a while ago. I was like, I'm tired of seeing the Chiefs win, and they were like, that just doesn't make sense. Because I am a Chiefs fan, but I'm tired of us seeing. I'm tired of seeing the Chiefs win how they're winning. There's too much going on that makes it questionable for winning. The penalties on the opposing team from the refs, the ball boy calling a timeout, Jawan Taylor getting false starts. I mean, there's so many unknowns about the way that the Chiefs win,
This is
and
the
I just
reason
blame
why I
the
don't like
giving.
this. This is the reason why I don't like to see the Chiefs win right now because it's boring. It's
Yeah,
boring. They play boring football, 17-10. Like we so used to 40-42 now. The 17-10 is boring. If they had Tyreek Hill, it would be more exciting. You get to see
exactly.
passes
That's
flying.
and that's
That's
what
what
I
we
think
want to
they
see.
got Xavier Worthy, thinking he was going to be the next Tyreek Hill for them. Not unless you put him in that role. He does not get the ball a lot. Unless it is designed to go to him, he does not get the ball a lot.
He's a rookie too, so give him time.
Well, you can say the same thing about Jaden Daniels or, you know,
But Jen Daniels, a
Bo
quarterback, he
Nix.
touched the ball every play. They touched the ball every play. So you got to give Worthy. He's going. I mean, he ain't no going to be fast. He is fast, but Worthy, he's not going to be Tyreek Hill. You can't expect that, but he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. And the Chiefs they just got the recipe right now for how to win, and how you win is however you win. We ain't playing against the spread. We ain't playing fantasy football. I just got to win by 1 point.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Just win by 1 point.
Well, I am excited to see these games go on tomorrow and the rest of this one that is started for tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will catch you guys not next week, but the week after that. So in about 2 weeks, we will catch you guys and give you guys our updates. And by then, I believe the college football season will be over.
I appreciate you having me on, man. And once again, condolences to the families of those lost in New Orleans, and our prayers are with you guys.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining. We look forward to next time.